I found my medication had been switched with something else. The pills looked almost identical, same color, same shape, but the tiny markings were wrong. I'd been a pharmacist for 42 years before I retired. I know pills. Someone in my own house was drugging me. And when I discovered who and why, I did something that would tear my family apart forever. Before I tell you what happened, drop a comment below. Where are you watching this from? And what time is it there right now? I want to know how far this story travels. It started 3 months ago with forgetting. Little things at first. Where I put my keys, whether I'd eaten breakfast, the name of my neighbor's dog, the one I'd known for 6 years. At 68 years old, I told myself it was normal. Everyone forgets things. But then came the confusion. I'd find myself standing in the kitchen at 2 a.m., unsure why I was there. I'd lose hours, whole chunks of afternoon vanishing like smoke. My daughter, Patricia, noticed before I did. "Dad," she said one Sunday dinner, her voice careful, "you asked me the same question 3 times in 10 minutes. I laughed it off. "Getting old, sweetheart." But she didn't laugh. She exchanged a look with her husband, Derek, a look I caught but didn't understand. Not then. The following week, Patricia suggested I see Dr. Hendricks. "Just a checkup, Dad, for my peace of mind." I went because I loved her, because she'd always been the responsible one. Because after her mother died 4 years ago, Patricia had stepped up, drove me to appointments, helped manage the house, even convinced Derek to mow my lawn every other week. Dr. Hendricks ran tests, memory assessments, blood work. The results came back concerning but not conclusive. Early cognitive decline, possibly. He adjusted my medications, added a new pill for circulation, suggested I keep a journal to track my symptoms. I did everything he asked. And the fog got worse. By the 2nd month, I was scared. I'd forget entire conversations. Once, I called Patricia to ask about Thanksgiving plans, and she told me we'd discussed it the day before, that I'd agreed to come to her house. I had no memory of that call. None. Derek started coming over more often, helping with things. He'd check on me in the mornings, bring groceries, sometimes stay for coffee. It felt suffocating, but I told myself they were just worried. That's what family does. Then came the conversation that changed everything. I was supposed to be napping. Patricia thought I was upstairs, but I'd come down for water. I heard voices in the kitchen, low and urgent. I stopped in the hallway, hidden by the wall. "The doctor said 6 months," Derek was saying. "Maybe less if we increase it." Patricia's voice was tight. "He's getting suspicious. Yesterday he asked why his pills look different. They don't look different, they're the same color. He was a pharmacist, Derek, for 40 years. He notices things. Then we need to move faster. The developer won't wait forever. That property is worth $2 million easy. More if we subdivide." My blood turned to ice. "The power of attorney hearing is next month," Patricia said. "If the doctor testifies he's incompetent, we're done. We can sell the house, move him to a facility, and no one will question it." "What about his savings?" "Joint account, remember? I added myself last year when he started forgetting. It's already accessible." I stood there in the hallway, not breathing, my hand pressed against the wall for support. My daughter, my only child, the girl I'd walked to school, taught to ride a bike, paid for college, walked down the aisle. She was drugging me. She was stealing from me. She was planning to lock me away and take everything I'd spent 68 years building. I went back upstairs on silent feet, sat on the edge of my bed. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't hold the water glass. But my mind was clearer than it had been in months. Because now I understood. The fog wasn't age. It wasn't disease. It was chemical. They were poisoning me, slowly, deliberately, making me appear incompetent so they could steal my life. I didn't confront them. That would have been stupid. I'd spent 42 years solving pharmaceutical puzzles. I knew how to analyze, document, test hypotheses. I needed evidence before I could fight back. That night, after Derek and Patricia left, I gathered my medications. 3 bottles on my nightstand. Blood pressure, cholesterol, and the new circulation pill Dr. Hendricks had prescribed. I put on my reading glasses and examined each pill under the lamp. The blood pressure pills looked right. The cholesterol pills looked right. But the circulation pills, the ones that had been added 2 months ago, the markings were slightly off. Not wrong, exactly. Different. The number on the side should have been 742. These said 147. I knew that number. I'd dispensed thousands of those pills in my career. 147 was the marking for a sedative, a strong one, commonly used to treat severe anxiety, but known to cause confusion, memory loss, and disorientation in elderly patients. Someone had put sedatives in my circulation pill bottle. 42 years of pharmaceutical knowledge, and my own daughter didn't think I'd notice. I didn't take the pill that night, or the next. I pretended to, palming them like a magician, flushing them down the toilet when no one was watching. Within 3 days, the fog began to lift. By the end of the week, I could think clearly again. My memory returned, sharp and painful, bringing back every suspicious moment I'd dismissed over the past 3 months. Patricia suggesting I see Dr. Hendricks. Dr. Hendricks adding a new medication. Derek picking up my prescriptions, insisting it was no trouble. The looks they exchanged when they thought I wasn't watching. It wasn't paranoia. It was a coordinated attack on my sanity. But I needed proof. Suspicion wasn't enough. I needed documentation that would hold up in court, evidence that couldn't be dismissed as the ramblings of a confused old man. On Monday morning, I drove to a pharmacy 2 towns over, one where nobody knew me. I brought the suspicious pills and asked for an independent analysis. Cash payment, no insurance, no records. The pharmacist was young, barely 30, but thorough. He ran the pills through their system and confirmed what I already knew. Sir, these aren't circulation medication. These are sedatives, strong ones. Who prescribed these? I told him I wasn't sure, that I was investigating a possible medication error. He offered to file a report. I declined. Not yet. I wasn't ready to show my hand. Next, I needed to understand the full scope of their plan. I'd heard them mention a power of attorney hearing, a doctor's testimony, selling my property. How far had they already gone? I spent Tuesday at the county records office. Quiet, methodical, invisible. I searched property records, court filings, anything connected to my name. What I found made me sick. 3 weeks ago, Patricia had filed a petition for emergency guardianship. The petition claimed I was suffering from rapid cognitive decline and was unable to manage my own affairs. It included a letter from Dr. Hendricks recommending immediate intervention. The hearing was scheduled for next month. I drove home in a daze. My own doctor was in on it. The man I'd trusted with my health had written a letter declaring me incompetent. How much had they paid him? Or was he just fooled by the symptoms the sedatives were causing? That night, I sat in my living room in the dark, thinking. I had proof of the switched medications. I had documentation of the guardianship filing, but I still didn't have direct evidence connecting Patricia and Derek to the crime. I needed them to admit what they'd done, on record, undeniable. The next morning, I called my old friend Robert Chen. We'd worked together at the hospital pharmacy for 15 years before he moved into security consulting. If anyone knew how to set up surveillance equipment, it was Robert. Howard, he said when I explained what I needed. Are you sure about this? They're trying to take everything, Robert. My house, my savings, my freedom. I need to catch them. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he gave me a list of equipment and instructions on how to install it. I spent Thursday turning my house into a recording studio. Tiny cameras hidden in smoke detectors, behind picture frames, inside a fake plant on the bookshelf. Microphones in the kitchen, living room, my bedroom, everything fed to a laptop. I kept locked in my gun safe. Password protected, backed up to a cloud server, only I could access. Then I set the trap. On Friday I called Patricia, made my voice weak, confused. Sweetheart, I said, I'm having a bad day. Can't remember where I put the bills. Everything's fuzzy. She was at my house within the hour, Derek trailing behind her. I watched them on my laptop from the bedroom, pretending to rest. They searched my office, my filing cabinet, the drawer where I kept important documents. He's getting worse, Patricia said, rifling through my papers. "The hearing can't come soon enough." Derek found my bank statements. "Look at this." His account still has over 400,000, plus the house, the land, his pension. We're talking 3 million total, Patricia, maybe more. And he has no idea. He can't even remember what day it is. By next month, he'll be in Sunrise Manor, and we'll have full control. I recorded every word. The following week, I gathered more evidence. I went to Dr. Hendrix's office and requested my complete medical file. The receptionist was hesitant, but I was legally entitled to my own records. What I found confirmed my suspicions. Dr. Hendrix's notes showed a steady decline in my cognitive function over 3 months, perfectly matching the timeline of the sedative dosing. But buried in the records was something else. A payment notation. Consultant fee from a company called Meridian Holdings. $12,000. I'd never heard of Meridian Holdings, but I knew how to find out who owned it. County business records. Meridian Holdings, LLC. Registered agent, Derek Foster. My son-in-law had paid my doctor $12,000 to write a letter declaring me incompetent. I sat in my car outside the records office, staring at the document. The betrayal wasn't just personal anymore. It was criminal. Fraud, conspiracy, elder abuse, potentially attempted murder if the sedatives had interacted badly with my other medications. I needed help, real help, legal help. But I couldn't risk hiring a lawyer who might know Derek or Patricia. Couldn't risk word getting back to them. I needed someone outside their circle. I found Margaret Sullivan through an elder abuse hotline. She was a prosecutor with the state attorney's office, specializing in financial exploitation of seniors. I told her everything, sent her copies of the recordings, the medical records, the business filings. She listened without interrupting. "Mr. Chen," she said when I finished, "this is one of the most documented cases of elder abuse I've ever seen. But I need to ask, are you prepared for what comes next?" "What do you mean?" "These are criminal charges. Your daughter could face 15 to 20 years in prison, your son-in-law the same. Are you prepared to testify against your own child?" I thought about Patricia at 5 years old, building sandcastles on the beach. At 12, crying when her hamster died. At 22, walking down the aisle, beautiful and white, hugging me and whispering, "I love you, Daddy." Then I thought about her standing in my kitchen, planning to drug me into oblivion and steal everything I owned. "Yes," I said, "I'm prepared." Miss Sullivan walked me through the plan. We would let them proceed, let them think their scheme was working. I would continue pretending to take the sedatives, continue acting confused. We would record more evidence, build an airtight case, and on the day of the guardianship hearing, we would spring the trap. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to act. Every time Patricia visited, I fumbled for words, asked the same questions twice, pretended not to recognize old photos. Every time Derek came over, I let him treat me like a child, let him rifle through my papers and talk about me like I wasn't there. The cameras caught everything. Derek practicing his testimony for the hearing. Patricia forging my signature on documents, both of them laughing about how easy this was, how trusting I'd become, how the old man had no idea what was coming. 3 nights before the hearing, I lay in bed unable to sleep. The betrayal wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was the silence. I couldn't tell anyone what was happening. Not my neighbors, not my old colleagues, not my sister in California. I was completely alone, surrounded by people who wanted to destroy me, holding evidence that could save my life, but unable to use it yet. I thought about my wife, Ellen, married 41 years before the cancer took her. She would have seen through Patricia and Derek immediately. She always could spot dishonesty. Maybe that's why they'd waited until she was gone. Maybe they'd been planning this for years, just waiting for me to be vulnerable. The morning of the hearing, I put on my best suit, the same one I'd worn to Ellen's funeral. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw an old man, tired and gray, but clear-eyed, ready. The hearing was in courtroom 4B of the county courthouse. I arrived early, shuffling, playing my part. Patricia and Derek were already there, dressed professionally, confident. Dr. Hendrix sat in the gallery, ready to testify. A court-appointed evaluator reviewed documents at a side table. Everything was going according to their plan, except for one detail. In the back row, invisible to Patricia and Derek, sat Margaret Sullivan and two investigators from the state attorney's office. And in my pocket was a USB drive containing every recording, every document, every piece of evidence I'd gathered over the past month. The judge entered. We all rose. The hearing began. Patricia's attorney went first, painting a picture of a loving daughter desperate to protect her declining father. He presented Dr. Hendrix's letter, the cognitive assessments, Patricia's tearful testimony about watching me deteriorate. I sat at the respondent's table, alone, appearing frail. The judge looked at me with pity. This was exactly what they'd wanted. Then it was my turn. Your Honor, I said, my voice suddenly strong and clear, I'd like to present evidence that this entire guardianship petition is based on fraud, criminal conspiracy, and attempted poisoning. The courtroom went silent. Patricia's face went white. Derek half rose from his chair. Objection, Patricia's attorney sputtered. The respondent is clearly confused. This is exactly why. Your Honor, I continued, may I approach the bench? The judge, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. I walked to the bench, steady and sure, and handed her the USB drive. On this drive, you'll find recordings of the petitioner and her husband discussing their plan to drug me into appearing incompetent. You'll find medical evidence that my medications were switched with sedatives without my knowledge or consent. You'll find financial records showing payments from my son-in-law to my doctor in exchange for a false medical assessment. And you'll find documentation proving this entire petition is a scheme to steal approximately $3 million in assets from their own family member. The judge's expression hardened. She looked at Patricia, at Derek, at Dr. Hendrix. Miss Sullivan, she said, addressing the prosecutor in the back row, I assume you're here for a reason. Margaret stood. Your Honor, the state attorney's office has been monitoring this case. We're prepared to file charges immediately. What happened next was chaos. Patricia started screaming that I was lying, that I was confused, that this proved I needed help. Derek tried to leave, but the investigators blocked the door. Dr. Hendrix sat frozen, realizing his career was over. The judge called for order. Bailiffs appeared. Within 10 minutes, Patricia and Derek were in handcuffs. Dr. Hendrix was informed he would be arrested pending charges of conspiracy and medical fraud. Patricia looked at me as they led her away, tears streaming down her face. Daddy, she said, how could you do this to me? I met her eyes. You were going to lock me away. You were going to take everything. You drugged your own father. I was trying to help you. You're sick. You need care. The only thing I was sick from, I said quietly, was the pills you gave me. They took her away. The courtroom emptied. I sat alone at the table for a long time, staring at nothing. I'd won, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like watching my whole family burn. 8 months have passed since that day. The leaves have changed twice. Spring turned to summer, turned to fall. I'm sitting on my porch now, watching the sun set over the property Patricia wanted to sell, the land that's been in my family for 3 generations. Patricia received 12 years federal prison for elder abuse, conspiracy, and fraud. She's at the Women's Correctional Facility in Tallahassee. I've gotten 4 letters from her. I haven't opened any of them. Derek got 15 years. His company, Meridian Holdings, was seized. Every asset frozen. He'll be 73 when he gets out, if he makes it that long. Dr. Hendrix lost his medical license and received 8 years for his part in the scheme. The state medical board used his case as an example in their training materials. At least some good came from that. The house is quiet now. Too quiet sometimes. I hired a new lawn service since Derek isn't around to mow anymore. I cook for one, eat dinner in front of the television, go to bed early. The neighbors wave, but keep their distance. Everyone in town knows what happened. Some think I did the right thing. Others think I'm a monster who sent his own daughter to prison. Maybe both are true. Last month, I started volunteering with the Elder Abuse Hotline. Margaret Sullivan connected me with their outreach program. I speak at senior centers now, Warn people about the signs I missed for so long. Trust your instincts, I tell them. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Document everything. And remember, the people most likely to exploit you are the ones closest to you. After one presentation, an elderly woman named Dorothy approached me. She was shaking, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "My grandson," she whispered. "He's been helping with my finances. Last week I noticed some checks were missing." I gave her Margaret Sullivan's card and my phone number. We talked for an hour. I walked her through the steps, helped her understand she wasn't crazy, wasn't paranoid, wasn't being ungrateful. 2 weeks later, she called to tell me her grandson had stolen $40,000. The police were involved. She was pressing charges. "You saved me," she said. "If you hadn't spoken at that center, I would have let it continue. I would have made excuses for him because he's family." "Family," I said, "doesn't give anyone the right to destroy you." This morning, I received a letter from Patricia. Her 5th one. I don't know why, but I opened it. Her handwriting was shaky, different from how I remembered. Prison does that to people. "Dad," she wrote, "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. What we did was monstrous, and I can't explain it in any way that makes sense. Derek had debts I didn't tell you about. We were going to lose our house. He convinced me this was the only way, and I let myself believe him because it was easier than admitting I'd married someone who could plan something like this. I'm not blaming him. I made my choices. I took the pills from the pharmacy. I put them in your bottle. I watched you deteriorate and told myself it was for the best. There's no excuse for that. Therapy here helps, sometimes. The counselor says I have to accept what I did before I can change. She's probably right. I'm trying. I understand if you never want to see me or talk to me again. I understand if you burn these letters without reading them. But I wanted you to know that I think about you every day. And I'm sorry. Not because I'm in prison. Because I hurt you. Because I betrayed the only parent I have left. I love you, Dad. I know that doesn't mean anything now. But it's still true. Patricia. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it and put it back in the envelope. I don't know what to do with it. Part of me wants to drive to Tallahassee, sit across from her in that visiting room, look her in the eye, and ask how she could have done this. How the girl I raised, the daughter I loved more than anything, could have looked at her own father and seen a target instead of a person. Part of me wants to forgive her, to believe the therapy is working, that she understands what she did, that somewhere inside her is still the child who made me macaroni art for Father's Day and fell asleep on my shoulder during long car rides. Part of me never wants to see her again. I haven't decided yet. Maybe I never will. Maybe forgiveness isn't something you decide. Maybe it's something that happens slowly, over years, or doesn't happen at all. What I do know is this. I'm alive. I'm free. I'm still in my house, on my land, with my memories intact. Not because my family protected me, but because I protected myself. People ask me if I regret turning in my daughter. The answer is complicated. I regret that she became someone who needed to be turned in. I regret every choice she made that led us here. I regret that I'll never have the family I thought I had. But do I regret calling Margaret Sullivan? Do I regret fighting back? Do I regret choosing my own survival over my daughter's freedom? No, not for a second. There's a saying I used to believe. Blood is thicker than water. It means family comes first, always, no matter what. But I've learned something in the past 8 months. Self-preservation is thicker than blood. Because you can't help anyone. You can't love anyone. You can't be there for anyone if you let someone destroy you first. Patricia made her choice. She chose money over her father. She chose her husband over her integrity. She chose to drug an old man into confusion rather than ask him for help. I made my choice too. I chose to survive. Some nights, I sit on this porch and wonder what Ellen would say. She was always better at forgiveness than me. She'd probably tell me to visit Patricia, to start healing the wound instead of letting it fester. She'd remind me that people can change, that our daughter is still in there somewhere, buried under years of bad decisions. Maybe she'd be right. Ellen usually was. But Ellen isn't here, and I have to make this decision alone. For now, I keep Patricia's letters in a drawer, unopened until today, unanswered still. Maybe someday I'll write back. Maybe someday I'll make that drive to Tallahassee. But not yet, not today. Today, I'm going to sit on my porch and watch the sunset. I'm going to eat dinner at my own table in my own house. I'm going to sleep in my own bed without sedatives in my system, without fog in my mind, without fear of what tomorrow might bring. Because that's what I fought for. Not revenge, not punishment. Just the right to keep living my life on my own terms. If you're watching this and something I said sounds familiar, if someone in your life is helping a little too much, asking too many questions about your finances, suggesting you see doctors who prescribe medications that make you feel strange, trust yourself. You're not paranoid. You're not ungrateful. You might be in danger. Document everything. Get independent opinions. Tell someone outside the situation. And remember, the most dangerous people aren't strangers. They're the ones who already have your trust. I'm 68 years old. I've been a pharmacist, a husband, a father, and now a survivor. My daughter is in prison because of choices she made. My life is quieter than it used to be. Lonelier too. But I'm still here. Still standing. Still free. And that's worth everything. If this story helped you see something you might have missed, leave a comment below. Share it with someone you love. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss these stories that might save someone's life. Because the next story might not be mine. It might be yours. And when it is, I hope you remember what I learned the hard way. Protect yourself first. Not because you don't love your family. Because you do. And you deserve to be here, clear-minded and free, for whatever comes next. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and never let anyone, no matter how close they are, make you doubt your own mind.